I want to tell you about something that has been genuinely keeping me up at night lately, and honestly, I just really need to know if you've been feeling it too. Have you noticed just how terrifyingly fast our lives are moving right now? Think back to when we were kids. Do you remember how a single summer vacation felt like an absolute eternity? An afternoon playing outside stretched on forever, and waiting for your birthday felt like a whole separate lifetime. But lately, for me at least, I feel like I blink, and an entire 6 months has just vanished into thin air. January turns into July in what feels like a weekend. For a long time, I blamed it on the daily grind. I told myself I was just working too much, or that this is just what being tired feels like. But I couldn't shake the unease, so I started digging into the actual psychology behind it. What I found completely blew my mind, and honestly, it gave me a massive sense of relief. It turns out the universe hasn't sped up its clock. Our brains have just quietly changed our software. Let me tell you exactly what's happening to us. To really understand this, we have to look at a simple but brilliant idea that a philosopher came up with way back in the 1800s. He realized that you and I don't actually experience time in neat, orderly ticks of a clock. Instead, our minds measure time by comparing it to the total amount of life we've already lived. Let's do the math together for a second. When you and I were just 5 years old, a single year represented a massive 20% of our entire existence on Earth. That 12-month block was an absolute ocean of conscious experience to us. Every single day carried an incredible amount of weight because it made up a huge chunk of our history. But think about where we are now. If you're 25, a year is only 4% of your life. If you're 50, it's a tiny 2%. Our subconscious looks at a passing year and automatically compares it to the massive reservoir of time we've already piled up. To our adult brains, a year feels as brief as a single month used to feel when we were children. It's a brutal bit of mental math, but it means that the longer we are here, the smaller each new unit of time feels. Tell me in the comments right now, how old are you? And does this math match how fast your current year feels? Because when I first realized this, it changed everything for me. But it's not just a mathematical illusion. There is a real physical change happening inside our heads as we grow older, and it changes our internal frame rate. I find it easiest to think of our minds as a camera recording a continuous movie of our lives. When we were young, our brains were smaller, and our neural pathways were perfectly fresh and efficient. Electrical impulses zipped across our brains instantly. Because of that, a child's mind captures an immense amount of sensory information every single second. Back then, you and I were essentially recording our lives at a crisp, incredibly high resolution, like a camera shooting at 120 frames per second. But as the years pass, our brains naturally grow, our pathways get longer, and our neural networks gather a bit of wear and tear. It takes just a tiny fraction of a second longer for a physical image to travel from your eyes into your conscious mind. Because of this tiny internal delay, an adult brain processes far fewer mental images per minute than a child. We drop down to a much lower frame rate. When you look back at the footage of your year, it feels like it flew by simply because your brain recorded fewer frames of reality. We are quite literally experiencing fewer moments per second than we used to. This next part is where it gets really personal, and to be honest, it's the part that made me realize how much we are self-sabotaging without knowing it. Our brains have a built-in survival setting. They absolutely hate wasting energy. It takes a massive amount of physical fuel for your brain to write deep, detailed memories. Think back again to childhood. Almost everything we saw, heard, or touched was brand new. The first time you saw a massive thunderstorm, the first time you rode a bicycle, or the first time you walked into a school classroom, your brain went into high alert mode. It told your memory center. This is vital data for our survival. Record every single detail. The file sizes of those childhood memories were absolutely massive because of the sheer novelty. But let's be honest about our adult lives. We fall into comfort. We fall into deep, predictable routines. We wake up at the exact same time, drive the same roads, look at the same walls, and scroll through the exact same digital feeds. Your brain looks at this repetitive data and says, "We've seen this 1,000 times. Do not waste energy recording it." It switches to autopilot, runs an efficiency program, and collapses weeks of your life into a single empty folder. When you look back at the end of a year and wonder where the time went, The truth is, your brain just didn't bother saving the files. You lived the days, but your brain chose not to remember them to save energy. It feels like a terrifying trap, doesn't it? Like we're just passengers on a train that keeps picking up speed. But since I figured this out, I've realized that you and I can actually fight back. We can't stop our chronological clocks from ticking, but we can absolutely force our brains to turn the recording resolution back up. The secret is breaking our routines on purpose, even in the smallest ways. If you want next month to stretch out and feel long again, we have to shock our minds with novelty. Tomorrow, take a completely different route to work. Go to a coffee shop you've never stepped into. Rearrange the layout of your bedroom so your eyes have to map a new space. Even better, try to learn something completely foreign to you. Pick up a random instrument, try a difficult sport, or start learning a new language. When you force your mind to tackle new, unscripted challenges, you knock it off autopilot. You demand that it write deep, dense, data-heavy memories again, stretching your perception of time back out. Look, I want us to try a little experiment together, right now. I don't want either of us to let our lives pass by in a quiet, comfortable blur. Let's head down to the comments and break the autopilot loop together today. I want you to tell me, what is the single most vivid, unscripted, or completely new memory you made this past year? What was that one moment that forced your brain to wake up and actually save the file? Drop your story below. I'm going to go down there right now to read through them and reply to you, and I'd love for you to read through what others have shared too. Let's build a space where we remind each other to stay awake to our own lives. Take care of yourself, break the routine tomorrow, and I'll see you down in the comments.